viewers, and welcome to Kerrex Reviews. Well, we got some good news and some bad news for you today. The good news is we got ourselves a new couch at last. The bad news is that this past month we lost another great Hollywood legend, and his name was Ernest Borgnine. For those of you not familiar, and if you aren't, how dare you, Ernest Borgnine was among the most prolific character actors of his time, appearing in such classics as McHale's Navy, The Dirty Dozen, The Vikings, The Wild Bunch, Escape from New York, as well as stuff like The Devil's Rain, Basketball, The Black Hole, among others. Younger viewers may also recognize him as the creepy storytelling grandpa from the MST classic Merlin's Shop of Mystical Wonders, or the voice of Mermaid Man from SpongeBob SquarePants. Another role he might know him from is the voice of Carface in the All Dogs Go to Heaven franchise, which we will be discussing today. More specifically, the direct-to-video sequel to the original movie. Only it wasn't exactly direct-to-video because this shit somehow actually made it to theaters. Seriously, and this is the promo proving it. Notice how they don't actually show any footage from the movie itself, they just rehash clips from the original and twist it around to match the sequel's plot. Almost as if MGM was ashamed of the fact that this shit was allowed to exist. By comparison, here's the teaser trailer for the Swan Princess 3. As you can tell, it's also incomplete. But at least they were confident enough to actually show shit from it, even if it was just drawing sketches. They weren't just trying to hide behind recycled footage of the previous entries. And if you're wondering which VHS tape this trailer came from, that's going to be the subject for the next review. So let's not waste any more time. This is All Dogs Go to Heaven, Part 2. So the movie begins with Carface talking in a phone booth regarding an item for his supposed boss. Guess he's working double shifts on two opposite spectrums?
Keep your quarter.
And then after the opening title sequence, we cut to what I suppose is a congregation meeting in Canine Heaven, where selected individuals are officially declared higher angels.
Now I know why they call it eternity. Everything here takes forever.
And it appears that all but Charlie have been chosen. Even Carface managed to beat him.
Carface Carruthers!
Not that he was looking forward to it in the first place, since he had previously declared his disdain towards the subject.
Wouldn't be caught dead wearing one of those merit badges, eh, Carface?
Hey, you remember, Charlie, it never hurts to play the game.
Halo polisher.
But they can't chat for long, as they are then gathered by the gate to welcome the newly departed into their fold.
Sorry, lousy brake pads.
One of them being Itchy, who in common Dom DeLuise fashion is the only cast member to retain his original voice. And apparently he wound up in heaven by choking his chicken.
Welcome to paradise.
Charlie then starts to show him the ropes as to what heaven is like, also showcasing how frustrated he is with the afterlife, through song of course. And in this musical number, they essentially start vandalizing the place as though it were the Vancouver Stanley Cup riots. Because topical. And then it all climaxes with a fireworks display for no reason. While all this is going on, Carface sneaks his way into the Heaven's Gate headquarters and then steals Peter Gabriel's horn. But as soon as he's in the clear, he fucks up as he drops the horn into what they describe as San Francisco. When the news breaks out of this incident, Annabelle, who from I recall never actually had a name in the original film, gathers everyone for a search party. Charlie then sees this as an opportunity to return to the land of the living and...
Look at him, for heaven's sake. They got rats down there bigger than this.
He's right. I'll go.
We're talking the mean streets of Frisco here, Ace, not Mount Happy-Go-Lucky.
Wait, so how does Charlie know anything about San Francisco? I mean, Didn't he live in New Orleans during his lifetime? And for that matter, wasn't it set during 1939? This causes a huge plot hole, since Itchy had just recently died and is supposedly set in the mid-90s, and being a dog, even if he were to live a full life, which he didn't as earlier indicated, he would have died from natural causes no later than at least 1950. And for that matter, where's Anne-Marie in all this? I know it's a bit of an uncomfortable situation to talk about regarding Squeaker, considering what happened in real life, but what was the reason we had such a huge retcon as to where or even when the story was set in?
They just didn't care!
Santa Christ almighty! Now, Annabelle seems genre-savvy enough to know that he's asking to volunteer and gladly accepts the offer for him and Itchy to go down and find it, while giving him an emergency miracle MacGuffin.
One per customer. Got it.
I just remembered, I have flying lessons after lunch.
Bring back the horn, Charles. Otherwise, there'll be heaven to pay.
So she threatened him with sex?
And so the two finally make it to Francisco and...
This message. Trash. Exhaust fumes. Graffiti.
Don't forget about all them smug bastards driving them Priuses and smelling their own farts while their own kids start ODing on heroin and amphetamines.
We are home.
Okay, I think I held off this little tidbit long enough. But Charlie in this movie is not voiced by Burt Reynolds like he was in the original, since he was busy doing striptease at the time, but instead he is voiced by none other than Charlie Sheen. Boy, so many Charlie Sheen jokes, so little time. I wonder where we should start. Well, I know. How about this?
When you see how I party, man, it was epic. The run I was on made Sinatra, Flynn, Jagger, Richards, all of them just look like, you know, droopy-eyed, armless children.
It's at this point Charlie and Itchy come to the realization that they are actually ghosts, walking alongside the living, but are not among them.
Annabelle. Of all the rotten tricks!
And pretty sure they missed out on a few key aspects about being ghosts.
Possession, flying, shape-changing, dismemberment.
We then focus on what is supposedly a failure of a talent show currently in progress, as we find out that the next contestant is a lounge singer named Sasha, voiced by Sheena Easton, providing yet another song for the soundtrack, for the talent show, while giving something for the furries to obsess over for a couple of years. And it makes you wonder, what was the reason for this? Was this the point where the residuals from the Sugar Walls era started dwindling? We see that Charlie instantly tries to hit on her, but to no avail. But when he speaks about his motives, he conveniently comes across Carface, who seems fully visible to the mutts around him.
She can't hear you.
That'll be 2 bits, Carface.
But I'm just too distracted by the fact that he's smoking cigars openly in a kid's film. Yeah, I'd say if the film were released these days, that alone would have guaranteed an R rating. He shows that he's wearing a special collar that somehow projects living tissue onto dead souls, seemingly like a plot device. This intrigues Charlie enough that Carface takes him over to the guy who lent it to him. They make it through the back alley and find themselves in an abandoned magic shop, where we see just how toned down this movie is compared to the tone of the original.
You're trying to scare me to death? Don't sweat it, pal. You're already dead.
Here's an excerpt from the original, just in case you need a reminder as to how pussified the sequel really is. They meet up with this merchant named Red, who's the owner of the place and seems to know them quite well.
Charlie barking, it's your phone.
Which seems a little suspicious.
Red sees all and knows all.
He offers them the obvious metaphor, which seems to work almost instantly. Almost as if there were fleas all over the place and they were just waiting for Itchy to appear and didn't decide to hone in on him when there were at least 2 other candidates in the room.
Sundown tomorrow.
And our suspicions are proven correct, as the merchant is the evil mastermind behind the theft of Peter Gabriel's horn. And through another song sequence, it is revealed that he's a big red feline devil? Wait, you mean this is the main villain? Are you telling me that that apparition we saw in the first movie wasn't meant to be the canine equivalent to Satan? It was this guy? Now you can really tell they toned down Don Bluth's original vision, since this guy could barely pass himself off as Big Red from Cow and Chicken.
Corn cob man, there's a lot of sick people in this town.
As the song goes on, it tries to justify itself by providing a little exposition for how this film's universe is supposed to work.
You'll never find it. Only angels can hear its heavenly tone. But I'm an angel. Not anymore.
So apparently only angels can hear the heavenly tone of this horn. It doesn't rely on skill or talent of any sort of logical bullshit. You just have to adhere to the Christian faith because they are the only source of truth in the universe. Alright, evangelist rant cut short. So Carface is officially indoctrinated into Red's allegiance, with a slight Sweeney Todd reference added for good measure, while the audience waits for the song to finish up already and get back to the plot. So after the performance is finished, we cut backstage where we find that, surprise, surprise, the barkeep is nothing but a sleazy crook. Offended by his offer, she leaves in a huff, but not before giving in to the needy and sneaking a few hors d'oeuvres while no one's looking. Boy, good thing this was made in a time before TSA policies came into play. This gives Charlie the opportunity to go in for the kill. It goes about as well as planned. But he's not about to give up, as he follows her down to a suburban area where a treehouse, or ground treehouse apparently, has been set up. She's on the guard until he shows the MacGuffin bag. As it's revealed, she was hoarding them for a runaway kid named David, essentially a gender-swapped rehash of Anne-Marie.
Kid.
Thanks, girl.
What did he do? Follow you home?
Ah, you can talk?
Please don't encourage him.
Wow!
He can understand you.
Of course he can.
Holy cow!
Holy dogs, actually.
Holy shit, these puns are awful. Apparently the collars are what caused them to speak in human, but it's mainly just so the filmmakers can dance around the whole species language barrier. They decide to reveal themselves as angels by simply removing the collar as a cheap trick.
Please. Hold your applause.
The kid turns out to be an amateur magician.
I do magic too.
Charlie then decides to use his one miracle on Sasha Pepe Le Pew style, giving her the ability to speak human as well.
Of all the arrogant, presumptuous, egotistical mutts I've ever met, now you talk.
David is left under the impression that Charlie is his guardian angel, telling him about his stepmom problems.
She wants me to call her mom, but she's not. I'm never going to it.
So what do you plan to do? Live on the street?
Yep, and do my magic at Cannery Square.
Sounds like a good plan to me.
What?